Okay, the pulse rate and weekly exercise routine for 10 students were recorded and tabulated up here in this table of values. And the correlation coefficient was found to be as R equals negative 0.99. It's interesting that it's a negative. A negative correlation means as one variable increases, there's a proportional decrease in the other variable. And that's exactly what's happening here. As the exercise increases, the amount of time increases for that goes up. What happens is the resting heart rate is going down. So an increase in exercise gives us a resting heart rate that gets lower and lower. One increases, one decreases. Negative correlation. It's also going to have a negative gradient once we put this on a number plane. But for now, our outcome is to find the equation. And what equation we're after? We're after the least squares regression line of best fit. And we're going to work it out mathematically as opposed to the traditional old-fashioned way of using your eye and just estimating where it goes. We're going to actually calculate it. And we're going to calculate it using 3 simple steps. Number 1, we're going to work out the mean of each score and the standard deviation of each score. Let's call exercise X and beats per minute down the bottom as Y. So we're going to get the means and the respective standard deviations of each set of scores. That's step number 1. Step number 2, we're going to work out the gradient. And the slope formula we're going to use is right here. M equals R, the correlation coefficient, and that's multiplied by, on the top, the standard deviation of the Y scores divided by the standard deviation of the X scores. And then we're going to work out finally step number 3, the Y-intercept denoted by the letter B. B equals Y, the mean scores, minus M, the gradient, times the mean of the X scores. And then finally we put it into the equation Y equals MX plus B for that equation called the least squares line of best fit. So let's go through those 3 steps. Number 1, we're going to work out the means and the standard deviation for each score. So let me just unveil this, and we can all fill each of the scores. We're going to use our calculator, and I'll go through the steps so you can use it. So you turn it on, and first step you want to do is put in the right mode. So you press the second blue button up the top. This is the FX Casio FX80 tool. So the second button on the top where it says mode, press the blue button mode, and then you get 3 choices. Press number 2 for statistics. Press 2. Then you get 2 columns of different numbers. You want to pick on the right column on the top, number 2. Pick number 2. That's the A plus BX. And we've got 2 columns, X and Y. And the X will be exercise and beats per minute will be the Y. So let's put in the exercise scores in the X column. The first one we're going to put is 0.5. So 0.5, you put that in and then you press equals. The next score you put 1 equals, 2 equals, 3 equals, 4 equals, 5 equals, 6 equals, 7 equals, 8 equals, and finally 9 equals. Then press the big giant blue button up the top in the middle and move the cursor to the right. So tap it to the right and then scroll up until you get number 1. All right, at number 1, now we're going to enter all the Y scores. The first one is 80, so just press 80, 80 equals, then 75 equals, 70 equals, 67 equals, 62 equals, 61 equals, 55 equals, 52 equals, 48 equals, and finally 46 equals. Once they're all in, both columns, what you do is you press the AC, the orange button, AC, and then top left, Shift 1, and pick number 4 variance, number 4. So pick 4, and then you get 7 choices. We're after number 2. So you pick 2 to get the X mean score. So press 2, then press equals again. Okay, so the mean for the X scores is 4.55. 4.55. Now you press AC, then you press Shift 1, 4 variance, and then press number 3 for standard deviation of that X score. Number 3 equals 2.796, rounds up to 2.80 to 2 decimal places. That rounds up to 2.80. Okay, let's go for the Y mean. So you press AC now, clear it. Then top button Shift, then 1, then 4 for variance, and then press number 5. That'll be the y mean. 5, and then press equals. 61.6. Okay, let's clear, press AC. Shift 1, 4 for variance, and press number 6 for standard deviation for the y-scores. Press number 6 and then equals. 10.87. 10.87. Okay, we have this information. That's step number 1. We're going to go to step number 2 and work out the gradient. So let's work that out. So there's our formula again. Gradient equals the correlation coefficient times the standard deviation of y divided by the standard deviation of x. Let's go ahead and work that out. So m, the gradient, equals r, which is negative 0.99, times, I'm going to put brackets here. On the top, standard deviation of the y-score is 10.87 over 2.80. 80. Close bracket. Okay, put that all in our calculator. M, the gradient, the slope, equals all that. It's going to be a negative answer. You put it in, it's going to give us a value of, rounded up to 2 decimal places, negative 3.84. Okay, that's our gradient. That's our step number 2. Let's go to step number 3 and work out the y-intercept. So the y-intercept, we're going to use that formula. So that's b, the y-intercept. B equals the mean of the y-scores minus gradient times the mean of the x-scores. So b equals mean of the y-scores is 61.6 minus the gradient, which is negative 3.84. I'll put brackets here, minus 3.84 times the mean of the x-scores. Mean of the x-scores is 4.55. Okay, let's put that in our calculator. I like to do it all in one hit. So b equals 61.6, take away, bracket. Remember the negative, negative 3.84 times 4.55, close brackets. Altogether, the y-intercept, b equals, to 2 decimal places, B, the y-intercept, is 79.07. Now we've got the 2 major ingredients. We have the gradient, it's negative. We have the y-intercept. All we have to do is drag and drop them into this formula here, y equals mx plus b. We're using x and y for now. So y equals m, which is negative 3.84, times 3.84x plus 79.07. Okay, that's our formula. That's our least squares line of best fit. Now let's put it in terms of exercise and beats per minute. So let's call x can be exercise, and we'll call that E for exercise. And Y for beats per minute, or resting heart rate, beats per minute, Y, let's call that B. Let's call that a big B. Okay, so Y is B and X is E. So let's replace them here. So we've got the official equation. Sometimes a teacher requires the official equation representative of the variables exercise and beats per minute. So let's do it that way. So this equation is now going to be Y is replaced by B. So that means B is equal to negative 3.84. Now remember, X is represented by E, plus 79.07. And that is the least squares regression line of best fit. That's a lot of words. There we have it. The least squares regression, line of best fit. B for beats per minute equals negative 3.84. E for exercise plus 79.07. Hope that helps. There you go.